What's up, guys, and welcome back. We're on the second channel today, but we have a new rumor, of course, of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth planning to be released for Nintendo Switch 2, coming from the Nate the Hate podcast, Nate Drake. And if you've been following my channel, we've been talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth coming to Switch 2 a couple years ago, actually, or about a year and a half ago, around mid-2023. And this was actually before it was rumored by another leaker in September of 2023. Another leaker, I guess, on Reddit was saying back then that they heard that Final Fantasy VII Remake was going to be a launch game for Switch 2, or a launch window game. Now, this was then later, quote-unquote, debunked by the same guy, Nate the Hate, in October of 2023, which is kind of ironic. And now the same guy is saying, oh, now it's coming to, Switch 2. But that is kind of funny because a lot of these quote-unquote insiders, they simply don't get things right a lot of the time. But when they do get just one or two things right, a lot of these news sites pick them up and view them as credible. So it's really weird that that happens, because you got to have a little bit more of a good track record than be so wishy-washy, at least in my opinion. And the thing is, there's no way that this person could have known really back then, at least as far as what type of sources they likely have regarding these things, because this came from a leaker talking about Square Enix having dev kits. So it depends on what type of sources you have, right? If you have sources that have the type of information that would know that a company like Square Enix has Switch 2 dev kits, and they know what game they're testing, because likely in 2023 they were testing Final Fantasy VII Remake being planned for a Switch 2 launch window game. So this would make a lot more sense, and it also would make sense why someone like Nate the Hate would not know anything about this and then kind of deny it was happening. And then now, of course, after probably their PR or marketing contacts started talking about things, yeah, it's a lot easier for guys like that to then quote-unquote confirm that Switch 2 is getting Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth in 2025 and 2026 or so, right? So the thing is, though, is that we've been talking about this on my channel, basically in live streams and a little bit in some videos, how I fully expected Final Fantasy VII Remake to be a launch window game for Switch 2 and for Rebirth to come as well. And this was before September 2nd, 2023, before anybody denied or tried to confirm that these games were coming to Switch 2. We were talking about it on my channel. And the reason why, well, I was talking about it on my channel is because I kind of knew already about this, and my stance on rumors has pretty much been nil since 2019 or so on my channel. I really don't like being a rumor guy. I like finding real information that's basically confirmed when you see it, right? I don't like rumoring things. I don't like stringing people along. I made those mistakes in the past and I've corrected them, and now I'm basically doing investigative work, and I'm showing real information that you guys can look at and then examine, and then we can see when it does come true. But it's always based on real info. I don't like doing rumors. But Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth were something I was extremely confident in, and something that I did actually hear behind the scenes. And if you've been following my live streams and watching me, you could tell that I kind of knew that this was going to happen regardless of what these rumors said. But for the sake of not being like these kind of guys who rumor stuff and then unrumor stuff and then are not sure, they are sure, and to string people along, for the sake of that, I really didn't want to do that. And also, that's why I'm posting this on my second channel, because my second channel is not monetized. You can see right here, this channel is not making any money, and it's designed that way, basically. So I'm not actually getting any money on these videos, which is great. It's all for fun, right? So what I'm trying to say is, yes, I did know about this ahead of time. Yes, I heard about this stuff before this information came out that Square Enix did have dev kits, and I definitely was not going to rumor that on my channel. I didn't see any reason to. It seemed kind of obvious that developers would have dev kits at this time, back in 2023, before September. And yeah, I knew about it, but I really didn't think it was that big of a thing, and I wasn't going to make a big, crazy video about it. Look at this big rumor, guys, because stuff like this just causes a lot of confusion, and people keep going back and forth on stuff that they really just don't know anything about. So it's best, after all the experiences I've had on YouTube, it's best just to not really rumor stuff. But I think hints here and there are fair game, and especially on my live streams, So shout outs to you guys, the core fans who have been following my live streams are always there in the chat. You kind of knew already that I did already have an idea that this was coming to the Switch 2 before anybody else. So shout outs to you. Thank you for your support. And hey, I'm excited to see these games on Switch 2, and I'm sure you are as well. So I have a little montage here of all the times I talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth coming to Switch 2. I also have the timestamps listed on there for when they actually happen, the dates before September 2023 and after. And also, I do have some speculation that Final Fantasy XVI will be coming to Switch 2 as well. That's not actually a rumor that I've heard, but it is something that I fully expect based on Square Enix's PR statements about Final Fantasy XVI not selling as well as they wanted to, and how they want the game to be brought to other platforms. So Switch 2, I definitely do think we'll also get Final Fantasy XVI in some form in the future, but Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, pretty much that's gonna happen. So yeah, thanks guys for your support, and I'll see you soon. Yeah, the only thing that I have been saying is that I'm not worried about Prime 4 or their next gen Switch stuff. Like I'm personally not. I'm not worried about it. I think it's alright. I think it's gonna be good. You know, I think everything's fine. Yeah, Final Fantasy games they'll eventually come to other platforms. All that stuff is just timed exclusive stuff for Sony. All those Final Fantasy games will also come to the next Nintendo Switch too, the Switch 2. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth on Switch 2, but I'm talking years from now. I don't think Square Enix is going to be keeping those games on PlayStation. So I think you'll be seeing Final Fantasy VII Remake, at the very least that. And yeah, we've been talking about that before anybody even rumored it out there. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake very likely coming to Switch 2. But yeah, I expect ports of Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to be coming to the Switch 2 at some point in the next couple of years. Another game I think is coming to Switch 2 at launch is Final Fantasy VII Remake and its DLC Integrate. And I know this was rumored last year for Switch 2, and we've heard various others chime in. Some that think Final Fantasy VII Remake is not happening, and some that do. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake and its DLC expansion will be at least a launch window game for Switch 2, since they already released it on PC, and Nintendo's audience would eat that game up big time. You just know it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will then also come to the Switch 2 as well. It's all about how much money that Square Enix can make, and I think they know it would sell really, really well on Nintendo consoles. Not only that, but I'm really excited to see some games on the Switch 2. And I do really think that third parties are going to have like a homecoming basically on Switch 2. Companies like Square Enix and Capcom are going to probably go ham on Switch 2, guys. And I am really expecting to see Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and even Final Fantasy XVI on Switch 2 at some point. Maybe not all at once, but maybe, you know, down the line. But I really think that companies like Square Enix are excited to get their games onto Switch 2 because they have not been making that much money selling it just on PlayStation 5. I think they have a big opportunity with Switch 2 to make a ton of money, even with lowered settings on those games. I think those games will sell extremely well on Switch 2.